I never thought a simple favor for a friend would turn into something that'd keep me up at night, replaying every word, every glance, every moment. It was just supposed to be a quick trip to help clean out a garage, but when my friend's auntie looked me in the eyes and asked, "Do you ever think about me?" man, everything changed. Let me take you through what happened, step by step, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It's not like I went looking for this. It was just one of those days that starts off normal and then takes a turn you never saw coming, leaving you questioning things you thought you had all figured out. It all kicked off last summer, around mid-July, when my buddy Jake called me up. Jake and I go way back. High school football days, late, night Taco Bell runs, the kind of friendship where you don't need to explain yourself because the other guy just gets it. We've been through a lot together, sneaking into parties we weren't invited to, fixing his old Chevy when it broke down on the side of I-25. Even that one time we got lost hiking in the Rockies and had to sleep in his truck till morning. Jake's the kind of guy who's always got something going on, some project, some plan, and this time it was about helping his aunt with a move. Her name's Linda, and she's not your typical aunt figure. Linda's in her late 40s, maybe early 50s, but she's got this energy about her, sharp, confident, like she's always one step ahead of you. Jake's always going on about how she's the cool aunt, the one who'd look the other way when we'd swipe a beer or two at family barbecues back when we were barely out of high school. I hadn't seen her in years, though, not since those summer cookouts when I was still a lanky kid with a bad haircut. Jake's voice was laid, back on the phone like it was no big deal. "Yo, Matt, you free this weekend? Aunt Linda's moving some stuff out of her garage, and she could use an extra pair of hands. I told her we'd swing by. Shouldn't take long." I didn't have much going on. Work at the hardware store was slow, and my girlfriend Sarah was out of town visiting her parents in Ohio, so I figured, why not? Helping out seemed like a decent way to kill a Saturday. Plus, Jake dangled the promise of pizza and a six-pack afterward, and that was enough to seal the deal. I told him I'd be there, and he said he'd pick me up at 9:30 sharp. Saturday morning rolled around, and Jake pulled up in his beat-up Ford pickup, the one with the dented fender he's been meaning to fix for years. We grabbed coffee at a drive-thru on the way, joking about how we were probably going to end up doing all the work while Linda sipped lemonade or something. We pulled up to her place around 10 a.m. She lives in one of those quiet suburban neighborhoods just outside Denver, where every house has a big lawn, a sprinkler system, and one of those mailboxes with a little red flag. Her place was a single-story ranch-style house, nothing too fancy but well kept, with a rose garden out front that looked like it got more love than most people's pets. The roses were in full bloom, all reds and pinks, and I remember thinking she must spend hours out there keeping them looking that good. Jake parked in the driveway, and as we got out, Linda stepped onto the porch. "Hey, boys," she called, waving us over with a big smile. She was wearing a fitted tank top and jeans, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe someone more aunt-like, with an apron and a plate of cookies or something. But Linda looked different. She had this vibe, like she could have been one of those women you see running a yoga studio or selling artisanal candles at a farmer's market. Fit, put together, with a smile that made you feel like she was in on some joke you hadn't caught yet. Her energy was magnetic, and I noticed it right away, though I tried not to think too much about it. "Good to see you, Matt," she said, giving me a quick hug. Her perfume hit me, something light, like citrus and flowers, and I remember thinking she didn't seem like she needed much help lifting boxes. She was in better shape than half the guys I know, but I brushed it off, telling myself I was just there to help, not to overanalyze. "Thanks for coming out," she added, her voice warm but with a hint of authority. "This garage is a nightmare, and I'm not letting Jake half-ass it alone." Jake laughed, tossing his keys on the porch railing. Yeah, Aunt Linda, we got this. Let's just get it over with." We followed her to the garage, and man, she wasn't kidding about it being a mess. Boxes were stacked to the ceiling, some labeled, some not. There was an old couch with a tear in the armrest, a rusted bike that looked like it hadn't been ridden since the 80s, and random junk like Christmas decorations from the 90s, stangled tinsel, chipped ornaments, the works. Linda said she was clearing it out because she was planning to sell the house and downsize, maybe move closer to downtown Denver. She wanted to sort everything into 3 piles: trash, donation, and stuff to keep. Jake and I got to work, hauling boxes out to the driveway while Linda directed us, pointing out what went where. She wasn't just standing around either. She was right there with us, lifting smaller boxes, pulling stuff off shelves, and occasionally cracking jokes about Jake's work ethic. "Matt, you're doing all the heavy lifting here," she teased at one point, as Jake fumbled with a cardboard box full of old vinyl records. "Maybe I should have just called you." Jake rolled his eyes, pretending to be annoyed. "Keep it up, Aunt Linda, and I'm eating all the pizza later." It was easy work, honestly. The kind where you're sweating a little but not killing yourself. The sun was out, but it wasn't too hot, and there was a breeze that made it bearable. We'd been at it for maybe 2 hours, and the pile in the driveway was starting to look impressive. Boxes of old clothes, a broken lamp, a set of golf clubs that Linda said belonged to her ex. She brought out a pitcher of iced tea, and we took a break, sitting on the porch steps. She handed me a glass, her knee brushing mine for a second as she sat down next to me. I didn't think much of it, just one of those things that happens when people are sitting close, but I noticed her looking at me a little longer than usual, her eyes lingering like she was trying to figure something out. "You've grown up a lot since I last saw you," she said, her voice light but deliberate, like she was choosing her words carefully. "What are you now, 26? 27? I corrected, taking a sip of the tea. It was sweet, the kind with real sugar that sticks to your teeth, and it hit the spot after hauling boxes all morning. 27, she repeated, nodding like she was filing it away. "Time's wild, isn't it? Feels like yesterday you and Jake were sneaking my beers at the 4th of July cookout." I laughed, caught off guard. "You knew about that." "Oh, please," she said, smirking. "I know everything. You think I didn't notice you two giggling behind the shed with my Coors Light?" Jake groaned from the other side of the steps, sprawled out with his glass balanced on his chest. "Can we not relive my delinquent youth right now? We've got more boxes to move." Linda waved him off, her eyes still on me. "Relax, Jake. Let me enjoy my iced tea and embarrass you a little." She leaned back, stretching her arms, and I caught myself noticing the way her tank top hugged her frame. I looked away quick, focusing on my glass, telling myself to chill. This was Jake's aunt, for God's sake. The rest of the morning went like that: work, banter, a few more trips to the driveway. We were making good progress, and Linda seemed pleased, pointing out spots we'd missed or rearranging the piles with a kind of precision that made me think she'd been planning this move for a while. Around noon, Jake's phone buzzed, and he stepped away to take the call. It was his girlfriend Emily, saying she was having some kind of car trouble a few streets over. Jake looked at me, already grabbing his keys. "You cool holding down the fort, Matt? I'm gonna go check on her real quick." "Yeah, I got it," I said, waving him off. "Tell Emily she owes me for stealing you." Linda laughed, a low, easy sound. "Go on, Jake. Matt and I can handle this. Just don't take forever." Jake was gone in a flash, his truck rumbling down the street, leaving me and Linda alone in the garage. It didn't feel weird at first. We kept working, sorting through a pile of old photo albums she'd pulled from a shelf. She was flipping through one, showing me pictures of Jake as a kid. Braces, bad haircuts, him holding a fish he'd caught at some lake. We were laughing, and it felt normal, like I was just hanging out with a friend's relative doing what I came to do. She'd point out a photo and tell a quick story, like how Jake once tried to borrow her car when he was 15 and backed it into a mailbox. I was cracking up, picturing him panicking while Linda probably chewed him out. Then things shifted. We were kneeling on the garage floor, surrounded by boxes, when she picked up a small wooden frame with a photo of her and some guy from years back. She stared at it for a second, her expression softening, like she was seeing something she'd almost forgotten. "This was my ex, Tom," she said, her voice quieter now, almost like she was talking to herself. We were together for a long time. Didn't work out, though. Sorry to hear that, I said, not sure what else to say. Breakups are awkward to talk about, especially with someone you don't know that well. I figured she'd move on, but she didn't. She shrugged, setting the frame down carefully, like it was fragile. It's fine. Life happens. You just move on, you know. She looked at me then, her eyes locking onto mine. It wasn't just a glance. It was like she was searching for something, like she could see right through me. You ever been through a rough one, Matt? I nodded, thinking about Sarah and me. We'd had our share of fights. Big ones, back when we were still figuring each other out. There was this one time, a couple years ago, when we almost called it quits over some stupid argument about where we were headed as a couple. But we worked it out, and things were solid now. Yeah, a couple years ago, things got messy with my girlfriend, I told her. We worked it out, though. Took some time, but we're good. That's good, she said, but her tone was off, like she was only half listening. She leaned back against a stack of boxes, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her movements were slow, deliberate, and I couldn't help but notice the way her eyes stayed on me. You seem like a good guy, Matt. Steady. Not like most guys your age. I chuckled, trying to keep it light, feeling a little heat creep up my neck. I don't know about that. I just try not to screw things up too bad. She smiled, but it wasn't the playful smile from earlier. It was softer, almost vulnerable, which caught me off guard. You don't give yourself enough credit, she said, her voice low. Then out of nowhere she asked, do you ever think about me? I froze. The question hit me like a truck. I mean, what do you even say to that? It wasn't just the words. It was the way she said it, low and serious, her eyes not breaking contact for a second. My brain scrambled for a response, but all I could manage was, what do you mean? She didn't back off. Instead, she leaned in a little closer, her voice steady, like she'd been thinking about this for a while. You know what I mean, Matt. I've seen the way you look at me sometimes, like when we were sitting on the porch earlier. You're not just helping out because of Jake, are you? My heart was pounding now, loud enough I was sure she could hear it. I'm not gonna lie. Part of me wanted to bolt out of that garage. This was Jake's aunt, his aunt. But there was something about the way she was looking at me, like she wasn't just messing around, like she meant it. And yeah, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't noticed her. Her confidence, the way she moved, the way she didn't seem like she was in her 40s. She had this presence, this way of carrying herself that made you pay attention. But thinking something and acting on it are two different things, and I was not about to cross that line. Linda, I started, but my words were tripping over themselves. My mouth felt dry, and I could feel sweat prickling at the back of my neck. I'm just here to help, you're Jake's aunt. I don't. I mean, I'm with Sarah. She didn't flinch, didn't look away. I know you're with Sarah, she said, her voice calm but firm, like she'd already thought this through. I'm not trying to mess that up. I'm just asking a question. Do you ever think about me not as Jake's aunt, but as me? I didn't know what to say. My head was a mess, thoughts crashing into each other like cars in a pile up. Part of me wanted to laugh it off, change the subject, pretend it never happened. But another part of me, the part I'm not proud of, was curious. What was she getting at? Was she serious? And why was my heart racing like I'd just run a mile? I kept thinking about Sarah, about Jake, about how this was all kinds of wrong. But there was this tiny nagging voice in my head wondering what would happen if I said something else, something honest. I don't know, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. It was the best I could do without lying or saying something I'd regret. I mean, you're not what I expected, you're different. But I don't think about you like that. I can't. She nodded, like she'd been expecting that answer, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or maybe I was reading too much into it. She stood up, brushing off her jeans, her movements casual again, like she was resetting the moment. Fair enough, she said, her tone neutral. Let's get back to work. Jake'll be back soon. The rest of the afternoon was weird. We kept sorting boxes, moving stuff to the driveway, but the air felt heavier, like there was an invisible weight between us. Every time our hands brushed passing a box or our eyes met, I felt this jolt, like I was doing something wrong just by being there. Linda didn't bring it up again, didn't say anything remotely like that question, but she didn't act like nothing had happened either. She was quieter, more focused, her jokes less frequent. Every now and then I'd catch her looking at me and I'd wonder what she was thinking. Was she embarrassed? Was she testing me? Or was she just as confused as I was? Jake came back about an hour later, completely oblivious to the tension. Emily's car's fine, he said, grabbing a box like nothing had changed. Just a loose battery cable. You guys good? Yeah, I said, forcing a smile, hoping my voice didn't sound as shaky as I felt. We're good. Linda didn't say anything, just kept working, her face unreadable. We finished up around 3 p.m. The driveway now a maze of sorted piles. She thanked us both, her voice back to its usual lightness, and handed us each a cold beer from the fridge. You boys did great, she said, leaning against the garage door frame. I owe you one. Jake and I drove back to his place, and I tried to act normal, joking about whether we'd get pepperoni or sausage on the pizza. But my mind was stuck on Linda, on that question, on the way she'd looked at me, on the fact that I hadn't been able to give her a straight answer. Did I think about her? I didn't want to admit it, but yeah, maybe I had. Not in some big, dramatic way, but in those fleeting moments when you notice someone and wonder, what if? And now that she'd called it out, it was like the question was burned into my brain, playing on a loop I couldn't shut off. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake it. I'd be at work, restocking shelves at the hardware store, and I'd catch myself thinking about her, about the way her eyes had locked onto mine, about the weight of her question. I'd be lying in bed, Sarah asleep next to me, her breathing soft and steady, and I'd wonder what Linda meant, why she'd asked, what she'd wanted me to say. It wasn't like I was obsessed or anything, but it was there, nagging at me, like a song stuck in your head that you can't quite place. I didn't tell Jake. He'd probably think I was nuts or worse, get pissed, and I didn't tell Sarah. How do you even bring that up? Hey, babe, your friend's aunt kinda hit on me, and now I'm overthinking it. Yeah, that'd go over great. I kept going over it in my head, trying to make sense of it. Was Linda just lonely? She'd mentioned her ex, Tom, and how they'd been together a long time. Maybe she was just feeling nostalgic, or maybe she was going through something and I happened to be there at the wrong time. Or maybe, and this was the thought that scared me, she'd meant it. Maybe she'd seen something in me, some spark, and decided to take a shot. But why me? I'm just a regular guy, 27, working a decent but not glamorous job, living in a one-bedroom apartment with Sarah, trying to figure out life like everyone else. What could someone like Linda, who seemed so sure of herself, so in control, see in me? About a week later, Jake and I stopped by her place again to drop off some tools she'd lent him for a side project he was working on. She was out front, watering her roses, wearing a sun hat and a pair of gardening gloves. She waved us over, that same easy smile on her face, like nothing had ever happened. Hey, Matt, she said, her voice warm but neutral. How's it going? Good. I said, my throat tight. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, waiting for something to happen, but nothing did. You good, she said, turning back to her roses, and that was it. No weird looks, no cryptic comments, just normal, like maybe I'd imagined the whole thing, but I knew I hadn't. That moment in the garage was real, and it was still sitting heavy in my chest. It's been a few months now, and I still don't know what to make of it. Jake mentioned the other day that Linda's house is on the market, and she's moving soon, probably to some trendy loft in the city. Part of me wonders if I'll ever see her again, and part of me isn't sure I want to. That question, do you ever think about me? It's like a splinter in my mind, one I can't quite pull out. I don't know if she was testing me, flirting with me, or just messing with my head. Maybe she was just having a moment, feeling vulnerable after finding that photo of her ex. Or maybe she saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. All I know is that it made me question things I thought I had figured out about myself, about what I want, about where the line is between right and wrong. I'm still with Sarah and things are good. I love her and I don't want to screw that up. We've been talking about moving in together permanently, maybe even getting engaged down the line, but every now and then when I'm alone, driving to work, sitting on the couch after Sarah's gone to bed, or just staring out the window on a slow day, I think about Linda. Not in some big romantic way, but just wondering what she saw in me that day, wondering why she asked, wondering what would have happened if I'd answered differently. I don't have any answers, and that's the part that gets me. It's like a puzzle with a missing piece, and I don't know if I'll ever find it. So yeah, that's what happened. It's not some wild drama or a movie plot with a neat ending. It's just something that happened, something real that I can't quite let go of. It's made me think about how life can throw you these curveballs, moments that make you question everything you thought you knew. If you've ever had a moment like that one that sticks with you, makes you wonder about the what-ifs, let me know, because I'm still trying to figure out what it all means, and I could use some company in the confusion.